Welcome to our today's webinar, Building Relationships, Everything You Know. We have the big schus of being joined by Shmuley Rothman, a renowned coach in the Shluchim community who's helped hundreds of Shluchim, myself included, and who has a vast wisdom that he can teach us. And I really look forward to his presentation. Welcome, Shmuley.
Thank you, Yosef. You're very kind and generous with your words.
So this webinar has been something I've wanted to do for a while. I've been doing Chabad Suite for 5 years now, and one thing I've noticed that has surprised me is that Shluchim either don't utilize or underutilize the CRM component of their system. The constituent relationship manager of their system is not being utilized as it should. And I feel we need a little education around it. And I feel like knowing more about what a CRM is about and how to use it and how to build relationships will help us grow our shluchus to a stronger and better place. So this is why we made this webinar, and I'm super thrilled that Shmuley was able to join us. And he's going to share with us some invaluable wisdom in the second part of this webinar. I'm going to start in the first part by giving an overview of all the features in Chabad Suite that you can be using to enhance relationship management and relationship tracking. Of course, I'm not going to go over everything, and I'm not going to go too deep into details. I'm going to try to do this quickly because I really want to get to Shmuley's presentation and allow time for a Q&A session afterwards and see what questions we get. So I'm going to jump in right now. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to get technical for about 10-15 minutes. And from there, we'll be able to dive into the Geschmack stuff with Mr. Shmuley Rothman. Let me go ahead and do that. I'll share my screen. Okay. Okay. Is my screen visible? Shmuley, you see my screen?
Yeah, you're loud and clear.
Beautiful. All right, so first thing I'm going to show, again, I'm going to go through all the entry points, how to record an interaction with a balabas. And this is basic stuff, but again, I want people to know all the different entry points, all the different ways to do it, so if you can find the most efficient way for you to do it, and it makes it easy as possible. We want to remove all the hurdles that prevent Shluchim from utilizing the relationship management component of their CRM. So I have here opened a contact profile, Mr. Bolton over here, and I want to enter an activity. So I can look at his activity through going to the activity tab over here, and from here I can click the new activity menu and select an activity to record. I don't even have to go there. I can really actually just simply click the action button, and I have the options to record activities here. And let's look a little bit at the new activity form. So if I have a meeting I would like to record, I can click new meeting, and it'll tell me added by, I'm actually logged in as Michael Schwartz right now. I am not Michael Schwartz, but this is a demo user. And I'm going to interact with this man called Levi Bolton. And this activity is assigned to, I will say, myself, right? Actually, wrong guy. There we go. I could give it a subject called Touchpoint 2. And then I have an engagement index. And this allows me to score the interaction after it happened, whether he was cold or was he really engaged and involved in our conversation and inspired. So this is going to be that engagement index. I can put in the location, of course a date. If I'm scheduling in the future, I could put a date and time. And I can put in a duration either prior to the meeting to decide how long it's going to be, or afterwards how long it took. Again, all these fields are optional. You don't have to use them, but they're there in case it can enhance your relationship management. Then you would select the status. either scheduled or complete, canceled, left message, unreachable. These are your options. You can add to these options as well. But basically, in short, if you're going to schedule something in the future, it's going to be scheduled. And if it's completed, it will be completed. You have a section to take some notes, assign a priority, attachments, if there are files that are pertinent to this interaction. If it's a repeated activity, something that happens weekly or monthly, you can schedule it to be recurring. And again, finally, you have your schedule of follow-up. So once you complete the activity, you could go right there and just quickly schedule your follow-up interaction. So that's very quickly the summary of the activity form, how to add an activity. And we saw how to do it from the contact profile. I'm going to show you how to do it from a couple of different ways. So there's another way. You can go to the top menu over here and select new activity, and that'll give you the new activity form. Let it load for a second. And when I select my contact, I can either type in the name and it'll pull it up, or if I don't have the guy in my database yet, I could just quickly click new individual and add him on the spot. So Shmuel Klein, let's say, right? And so he's added to the system, and now I can add my activity. This is another entry point, how to add an activity, very useful. Thirdly, another entry point would be the mobile application, right? So for those who are on the advanced or professional package, you have the access to the mobile web application. And right now it's on a desktop, so obviously it looks enlarged, but this is what it'll look like in your mobile. I'll actually make it more accurate. And so you want to schedule an activity. You can quickly search for your contact in question. And then the plus sign next to it allows you to quickly create an activity. You hit it with your thumb, and then you find yourself with this form. Again, it's the new activity form. You can create the meeting and submit. So I'll just add something quickly. And then submit. Beautiful. So now I have my activity was added. And there's another entry point from the mobile application is by clicking new. This allows you to create a new contact quickly. There's a lot of details you can enter. You can enter the spouse, child, and also a new activity. So if you're out and about and you meet somebody on the street, on the time or whatever it is, and you want to quickly add him to your database, and you want to create a follow-up, this is your form. You quickly put in the name, Mrs. whatever the name is. You go down, and then you can create your activity and submit it. This will allow you to create yourself a reminder, to follow up with this person next week, next month, or whatever it is. And then another cool tool is the My Activity section in the mobile web application, which allows you to see all your upcoming meetings and phone calls and activities that are scheduled. So you have a phone call with Mrs. Linda Gold. Subject is called to say happy birthday. You can click update over here. Once you do it, and then you can update it, put in the details, and say that it's completed. And at the same time, you can create your follow-up. Right then and there, it's quick, it's easy. It makes it easy to manage your relationships. So this is very quickly the way to add activities. Since we're on the mobile web application right now, I will show you another quick feature, which is called Last Touch Points. So this screen will show you the last time you interacted with your Baal Batim. So anybody who's ever had an email, a phone call, or a meeting with you, they'll show up on this list, and it'll tell you when the last time an interaction happened. And from there, you can decide, okay, hey, it's been 17 hours. I haven't spoken to Darren. Let me call him, because 17 hours without speaking to Darren is way too long, right? And you could filter it by group. So if you have like a donor list that's very important, and you need to be on top of them, you could really keep track of if anybody's falling through the cracks on that list, on that specific list. So that's the mobile web application. Let's go back to the desktop CRM and look at some different tools. So we looked at adding activities. Now, by default, it only comes with these three options: meeting, phone call, gift. But you can add to this. So I'm going to show you how to do so. You would go to Administer Systems, custom data and screens, and activity types. This will take you to this screen, and you can click Add Activity, and you could call it whatever you want. So you could say one-on-one shear, and add that. And then you have yourself a new activity type. You can add as many as you want to track, and that's an easy way to customize. Next, we want to look at our desktop dashboard. So if we go to the CRM home, we want to make sure we're utilizing this feature over here where we can configure our dashboard. And I will take some reports and add them down here. Done. Okay, so one section that's very nice is this activity section, which shows you your upcoming meetings. So it shows you anything that's upcoming that you have to do from here. And then once you complete it, you could click Edit and be done with that. On the left side, you could have reports that you want to keep on top of. So people's birthdays, this is the Gregorian birthday. I have the Hebrew birthday and when it's happening. And you could call them engagement search. This is another great tool. If you decide, you've decided to target a certain group of people who've engaged with you a certain amount of times, this is a great tool to use. You can find content that do or don't have a total of, let's say, 3 phone calls and meetings. So let's say, you want to see anybody who doesn't have at least 3 phone calls or meetings within the past, let's say, last 90 days, and are also in group Hebrew birthday, or you would have, like, let's say, donor group. So anybody who's in your donor group who you haven't contacted at least 3 times in the last 90 days, you could click search and I'll give you a report of that. Makes it very easy for you to find a good list to target and to engage with. Trying to see if I'm missing anything or if we summed up basically the tools and features for activities. I think that sums it up. Again, there's the dashboard, engagement search, and the web application. So I think that sums it up. I'm going to stop here, and we'll at the end, at the time of Q&A, if you have any questions, mark them down. I can answer them then. And we're now going to move over to the interesting stuff. So I'm going to hand over the mic here to Shmuley. If you could please take over and introduce what you're going to talk about, and get started. Thank you, Shmuley.
You're welcome. Yes, this is exciting. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. First of all, how many years of your neshama, kishkas, and passion have you put into getting this to where it is today?
It's been 5 years. Me'ad ve'ra'im. No, I'm joking. It's beautiful, 5 beautiful years.
Are you pleased where it is?
Of course not. We can't be pleased. Well, I'm pleased, but not satisfied.
I didn't say satisfied. I said pleased.
Yeah. Sure. I'm very pleased, but we're growing and we want to keep growing.
It's neat because watching the presentation, I've never seen it in action. I've heard a lot about it, but watching it in action, it's just my brain is firing, triggering. Wow. So the efficiency you could bring to a Mossad by the one in charge of the Mossad having the right tools in his toolbox to access the right information at the right time is phenomenal. I know you as a man who likes to find the better way to do things. So thank you for what you've done so far, and I'm excited for what the future is going to bring as well.
Thank you, Shmuley.
You're very welcome. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here. B'chlal, anytime I have the opportunity to spend time in the company of Shluchim is extremely special. A day like today, spending time be'achdus, ba'ava v'achva amongst Shluchim of the Rebbe is even more meaningful. So yishkoyach for the timing and what you're doing here. Let's jump in. If you have questions while I go along, by all means type them in. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat box. Let me pull it out for myself here. If I don't stop, it means I will make an effort to get to it at the end of the presentation. So let's do that. Okay. I'm working off of questions that Yosef sent me to try and guide this conversation, and it's my intention to end this by 3 o'clock Eastern. And
okay.
Yosef, jump in and guide it along the way.
Is it possible, Shmuley, maybe if you could try to shorten it a little bit so to leave a little bit of time for Q&A?
I meant with the Q&A. So I'll go to
Okay,
2:45 and then we'll go through a quick Q&A.
Okay, beautiful. Yes.
What's in store in part of this presentation? So there's which relationships should I be tracking, what to track in a relationship, and then FAQs, which Yosef sent me. So let's jump right in and see what we've got here. Which relationships do I want to be tracking? So the first question I want to ask is, where am I going? Where am I going with my shlichus? What am I focusing on right now? That will tell me what I need to be tracking. In other words, am I talking about fundraising? Am I talking about community building? Am I talking about leadership building? Am I talking about committee building? Am I talking about Merkez Shlichus building? There's so many different areas. When I need to identify where am I heading right now with my shlichus, and oftentimes the answer to that question is different based on the different stages we're in. So let's answer that question first. The next question is, who do I need help from in order to get there? Are you a one-man show? Type in the answer yes or no. Are you a one-man show? Do you believe that you are the only one in your ma'aseh that can do everything that it takes to build your ma'aseh? If the answer is yes, type in yes. If the answer is no, type in no. Let's get a little bit of activity on the chat box here.
Shmuley, are you asking whether this is the current case that I am a one-man show, or whether that's my shita, that one-man show is the way to go?
Yes, whether it's you or that's the way that you believe it needs to be. I'm asking Shulchan to please join us, engage by typing in to the chat box. You can either set your chat to go to everyone or just to the presenters, so it's not public. Either way, when a shliach is the one-man show, so you're going to be limiting your ability to you're going to be limiting your ability to create the impact that you need. When I look around and say, who do I need help from? So there's lots of different help, and I can identify the people, then I can decide which relationships I need to be looking at. So let's try and break it down to some general categories. Number one is my time is limited. I have to pick and choose very wisely in my day between all my other responsibilities as a shliach, which are numerous. There are going to be, I need to figure how much time I have available for meeting up with people and developing those relationships. Everybody in my reach, under the achrayus of my shlichus, needs attention from me. Who's getting more of it? Who's getting less? A quick vart from Rabbi Lazaroff, who I didn't understand it when he told it to me when I was learning smicha there, but he said to me, a lot of shluchim have kindness to him why he only spends time with the wealthy members of the community. Why doesn't he spend time with the less wealthy people? And his answer to them was, why do you only spend time with those who can't afford to support the ma'aseh? In other words, you're going to pick and choose. I'm choosing to spend time with people who could then give, and with that giving, we could build an empire. If I only spend time with the people who can't give back, then I'll be very busy, I'll have lots to do, but I won't be able to build a community, I won't be able to build a ma'aseh and so on. So who are the people that warrant more of our time? Now, side note, yes, of course we take care of everybody. Of course we do. So those who are not getting much of our most intense attention using the CRM, there are ways to keep them in touch with Shabbos emails, with Yom Tov invitations, with Merkez Shlichus visits, lots of different things. But right now we're focusing on, I'll call it 4 major categories. Number 1 is influencers. Who are the people in town who are the movers and shakers? They have circles of friends they themselves are an influencer, they have ashpah on others, and they are in a circle of people who have influence. Number 2, who are the community leaders? Who are the rabbis? Who's in charge of the federations? Who are in charge of the campus programs? Who are in charge of philanthropic organizations in town? Who are the, perhaps you might include the police department and law enforcement and other community leaders. Who are they? Chabad on campus, oftentimes with my work there, I encourage shluchim to take time to get to know the people that run the college, the university. Go meet the president, meet the deans, meet the people who are the leaders, and by knowing you, they're going to, by default, introduce you to people that are good for you to know. Who are the philanthropists? If I'm in charge of the financial responsibilities of the ma'aseh, I need to know who the philanthropists in the community are. If I don't know them and I don't get to them, then I need to have some other good idea how I'm going to financially float the organization. Usually it's when I have the right philanthropist on board. And then you have, I want to surround myself with people who have strong boundaries and high standards. There's some people who are good for me. They're healthy for me to be around. There's some people who suck my blood. I got a message from a shliach an hour and a half ago saying somebody who is part of my circle decided I work for him and he thinks he controls my life, and how do I get out of that? So people that have strong boundaries, they don't let you hurt them, and they don't hurt you. People that have high standards, people that treat others with utmost respect, these are people who I want to be around. They attract quality people. I want to be part of that group, and I want to attract quality people as well. So I'm going to look for people that resemble what it is that I'm looking for. So these people, the influencers, the community leaders, the philanthropists, people with strong boundaries and high standards, these people can take the message farther than I can on my own, and they can do it faster than I can on my own. Very simple point of reference. If you're ever doing a building campaign and you have a board, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't have a board. I'm giving you an example. If you have a board of directors, your board of directors can, if done properly, can solicit funds from foundations, from philanthropists that you don't know and you can't get to, and yet they could and they will. So instead of you shouldering this whole responsibility on your own, they can go ahead and be part of your team and do so much of the work for you. So these are some of the people that we want to get to in order to build the Mossad. Yosef, are we clear so far?
Clear. Could I interject a quick observation I mean, I'm a bit fascinated here because you've just identified something which I didn't have a clear awareness of, that CRM, building relationships with a CRM is not for every relationship, right? It's really for a specific subset of relationship that I'm targeting that will assist me in growing my Mossad. And there is another way to communicate with the global, community, basically the city that I'm in, through, like you said, just widespread communications, emails, America Shluchas. And I find this fascinating. I think it takes a lot of pressure, off a shliach's shoulder. I'm speaking for myself, to know that not every congregant or constituent demands the same amount of attention in relationship building. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
I like that observation, because my thought this morning when I was going through my notes was, when I know who I must spend a lot of my time with, when I meet someone who doesn't fit that category with my CRM, I can give them the proper tag that makes sure they'll get what they need without it taking too much of my time and without me forgetting about them.
I see.
That's why I specifically mentioned Merker Shlichus, for example. I know a shliach in a very small town who, every time he meets a Jew during the year, he tags that person Merker Shlichus. So by the time the Bachrim come, they have a full, beautiful list of people to go meet, and it took the shliach 3 minutes to run the report.
Wow.
He knows he can get to them. They live down country roads or wherever they live. It's not the main focus, but when they come, it's not, what should we do today? No, what are you talking about? I've got 6 weeks of delightful work prepared, because as I met the people, I put them into the category.
Very nice.
So, okay, good. Thank you for that. All right, let's move on to the next slide here. I can get this to move. All right, what to track. Now, this is not in the slightest Teres Moshe Sinai. This is more to trigger your brain. Oh, really? This, that? Maybe some other things will come to mind as well. So this is really a first spice to get you into the mood, and a lot of it's not going to be chidushim. Let's run through it, see what we come up with. So first of all, the name of the person, and I say correct spelling. That's not a joke. If it ever happens to you, you know how a balabas feels when you type his name and it's wrong. The age of the balabas. There's a way to figure that out. What's his birthday? Plug that in. The name of the spouse and the children, the proper name, and how to pronounce it. The anniversary, yard sites, graduations of children or grandchildren, mile markers that might be going on in their life, business deals. The balabas will tell you in conversation. He'll share something about a business deal, keep track of it. Significant travel. We're going on a vacation to wherever it is. Hobbies. What is the balabas like doing in his pastime? Does he go fishing? Does he like reading? Does he knit? I don't know what it might be. What are they passionate about? How do I find out all of this information? So in conversation with people, when I have my look out for information hat on, I'm not a nudnik and I'm not a yenta. I'm super curious and I pay close attention, knowing that when I identify the right person, the person who's going to be good for, let's go as an influencer to have on my team, or as a philanthropist to have on my team, or somebody with high standards, as soon as I identify that this is a person I want to get to know more about, in conversation, I will, in a classy way, go places. I will ask questions like, so, do you have any travel plans coming up in the near future? Especially if I happen to know it's around the vacation time. That's not me saying, I'm a busybody and I want to know the itinerary of your travel and how much you paid for it and where you're going. And no, I'm not doing that. I'm making conversation. I am inserting into the conversation opportunities for them to respond with important information. What's the point of tracking all of this? Look at the last point on this slide is, I want to keep track of all the information that will wow them when I remember it. So whether I'm developing a personal relationship for the sake of a friendship or as an influencer, and there are many relationships to have aside for the donor relationship. Donor is very important, but even aside for that, when I come to you on your birthday or on the day that I know you are having a big business deal, or I see something that's related to your hobby and I take a picture and I send it to you. I said, John, I saw this on the road today, I thought of you. These are small little things that make a person wonder, wow, I didn't know they care. They took the time, they paid attention, they remembered when I told them the first time, and now they chose to remember it now. And how did they do that? They've got so much going on. So we don't tell them, Chabad sweet. We don't necessarily tell them that I've got a machine behind me that supports all of this. They're just totally wowed by it. When somebody's wowed by your kindness, by your thoughtfulness, by you showing up at the right time with the right thing, that draws them closer to you.
Shmuley, can I interject a couple of ideas that came to mind real quick?
Go ahead, please.
So first off, regarding the name, I want to say that the correct spelling, it's obvious, but it's so important you wrote it. I can't tell you how many times I've done data migrations or I've, did support for someone and I come and see that the names don't have proper spelling, or they're not the first letter's not uppercase, they're not capitalized. And so I want to tell people that if your database needs correcting, the names need capitalization, there is a tool in the CRM to do that. If you need to know where it is, maybe I'll post it later on, but there's a tool that'll just go through all your names and capitalize everything. So that's one little point I want to say. Another point regarding birthdays, it's sometimes difficult to ask for people's birthdays. And I was having a discussion with a shaliach who wanted to collect people's birthdays and do have them mark whether it's before or after Shkia to calculate their Jewish birthday. So he was trying to find a way to do it. He tried to put in his event forms, but it would deter certain people from signing up. So finally, we came up with the idea of doing a Jewish birthday campaign, and kind of promote it through email, to promote and encourage people to start celebrating their Jewish birthdays, and that our system will let you know when it's your Jewish birthdays. We'll send a reminder yearly. So that's one way you can create a quick profile form with the person's name, birthday, and have the field there for before and after Shkia, and then it'll automatically calculate their Jewish birthdays. Another mention, you mentioned quickly about Merkei Shlichus. I do have a shliach, actually a neighbor shliach here, who's been using Chabad ever since he came out on Shlichus, and that's one thing he's been doing great. He brought out Merkei Shlichim, and he had them take notes for every single house they visited, and he has those notes ready. And every year when he sends a shliach out, he just pulls up a report of last year's activities for Merkei Shlichus, and he gives it to the Merker Shluchim, and it makes their experience much better. They know who they're meeting. They know what the engagement's going to be like. They know how to approach each house in a more thoughtful way. And in addition, you can give your Merker Shluchim access to your CRM, to the mobile web application, where they can enter quickly details from that activity, from each encounter in the house. Final thought. Back to you, Shmuel.
That is great. Quick question on that front, because I was working with a shliach who has an intense Hanukkah operation, and his biggest headache was how to capture the information nightly from the close to dozens of Bachram who were going out in his neighborhood. I think they reached over 600 homes over Hanukkah. Wow. It was a big wow. Are you able to create a intake form on the app where you preset it with the basic information you're going to need, like name, family, how many kids did they answer, what was their response? Can you create a customized form so that on the run they can just like boom, 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 fill it in, and it populates?
Well, yeah. Ideally, they would just use the new option, and they would enter the Balabas's name, address, and then in the activity put in all the details, throw it in there, and then maybe have someone that can do data entry later, and parse that data into the right fields. Okay. That'd be ideal.
But the advancement of the Bachram being able to access the CRM through their phones, that's got to be an incredible benefit, so that stuff doesn't get lost. It happens while it's fresh, and beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And like I said, these are just some of the ideas. Whenever I'm talking with a shliach and we start sharing mitamo, like there's a whole flood of additional ideas. This is just to get the ideas started. All right, so moving on to, these were some of the questions that were sent to me as frequently asked questions when it comes to relationship building. How to forge and nurture relationships you want to see grow. That's the general concept. And here's going into the specifics. I've had a couple of successful touch points, and now I'm stuck. What should my next move be? So if that question speaks to you, if you have that reality, just type in and say yes, or me, or now. If you've ever dealt with that, I've had a couple, and I'm not sure what to do next. There's a couple more responses here in the chat box. We don't bite, so just type in yes or no. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So here on the next slide, what I prepared is what your 7 steps might be like. And let me give a drop of akdama to this. Way back when, a while ago, I was working with Rabbi Manis Friedman, and one of the trainings we took was how to capture somebody, and it's a sales model. From the first time they encounter your product till they buy in and say yes, there are 7 steps. That's called a sales funnel. And as soon as I heard of it, I thought to myself, there's got to be something called the shluchas funnel. From the first encounter I have with a Jew till whatever the end result is, and there is no definite end result, because there's tefillin, there's kashrus, there's mezuzah, there's taras hamishpacha, there's all the Rebbe's mevtzoyim, there's taryag mitzvahs. But let's talk on a very basic level, from a first encounter, wherever and whenever it might be, to a time and place when they're closer to the shliach, closer to the shlucha, closer to the moisid. There's got to be a way to pre-plan at least 7 steps. So whenever I'm having a first encounter, I'm never thinking, oh, I don't even know how to go to the next step. I don't even know how to do that. So this is where this part of the presentation was born. It goes back a couple of years, and we've been working with it over time. All right. Now, let's talk about, you meet somebody in a store. Pretty common scenario on Shluchas, you're in Trader Joe's. Okay? If you have a Trader Joe's by you. I just chose that random. So you meet somebody. In the first conversation, you want to create common ground. How am I going to create common ground? I'm going to either offer or ask a question about children or career or about geography, where you're from, how long have you lived here, share where I'm from, wait for a common point to come up, talk about Jewish background, did you know your grandparents, do you have any memories from your childhood? We're not superimposing this on the first conversation. If you're standing between 2 hours and you're schmoozing and you're able to, you're going to have a little bit of a cheat sheet in your brain saying, I'm going to try and learn as much as I could in a gentle, friendly way without being too nosy, and yet instead of having random senseless conversation, I'm having focused conversation because I'm giving myself what to work with for the next step. You look at how they dress. You look at the vehicle they drive. You can ask the right question that just shows your interest, and you have conversation. A quick story: it happened to me in a shul in Chicago. I sat down to my mazel next to one of the wealthiest yidden there, and I didn't know it at the time, but one of my friends kind of was winking at me, and so I put two and two together. I'm thinking, how am I going to strike up a conversation? And I noticed he has cufflinks on his Shabbos shirt. So I knew his first name, I knew his last name. So I said, "What's the middle initial for?" And his face lit up. And he told it to me. I said, "What's the Hebrew equivalent?" He told me his Hebrew name. So now he's talking, he's offering. So I pushed further and I said, does everybody in the family have two names? And mitamol, he launched in this whole thing about my mother, Allah Shalom. She had this thing with two names. And I'm sitting there, I'm kind of cracking up, but thinking to myself, this is beautiful. He's sharing with me so much personal information. I now know that he has a deep appreciation for her mom. He happened to have mentioned that her yahrzeit was coming up. So it was Shabbos B'Tzimun. I go home after Shabbos and I had this download to do because I struck up a conversation. So those are some of the ways we kind of make it comfortable to chat, and we look for the information that's going to lead us to the right stuff. Number two, follow up with a point of interest. So let's say you met a mom in the store, and it comes out in the conversation that she's got to run because she's going to pick up her children from soccer practice. Well, you go to Chabad.org and you find some article about sports and Torah, and somehow in the initial conversation you got her email address. It just happened somehow. We're not addressing that now, but you figured it out somehow, and you send her, "Hi, so nice meeting you in the store. Came across this article, thought you might appreciate reading." You give her a chance to respond, or him. It could be a guy. It goes both directions. Once that happens, then you put them on your Good Shabbos call or text message. Nothing too intense. "Hi, getting ready for Shabbat, thinking about the friends in the community that I met this week and calling to say Shabbat Shalom." And either you do that in a phone call, you do that in a text. Then you schedule the next week or so to go visit with a challah. Now, challah could just be a challah in a bag, or it could have something inspirational in it. So if you put into the challah something short and sweet and powerful, that when they read it, it's going to fill them with warmth, whether it's a vart on the parsha, or whether it's an article, or maybe from the first conversation you had with them, they taught you something about them of interest, and that article or that inspirational nekuda speaks to their specific reality. So now the challah is delicious, but you're also inspiring the neshama. Side note, but not a side note at all, is let that inspirational printout be something for the Rebbe. Because when you teach the Rebbe's Torah to any one of the neshamas that are alive today in the world, you're connecting them with the neshama klalis, and there's a much deeper bond instantly than you can ever make with any gimmicks. So whether they will or won't respond to the fact that you dropped off a challah, that's really not so important right now. You didn't ask them to respond, so if they didn't, it's okay. Shluchim asks me all the time, "Why aren't people responding?" I said, "Oh, did you ask them to?" So if there was no, please call me to rate the taste of this challah. If you do that, and we're taking a survey, maybe they'll call you, maybe they won't. If they liked it, they might. But if I'm not asking them and they don't respond, so that's fine. I didn't ask them to. But nonetheless, I will then schedule a week or two later, call and ask to meet. So shluchim with men, shluchis with women, or a shliach with the couple, whatever the setup is going to be. Then why am I calling? I like meeting the people we met once, had a nice encounter. I like to get to know you a little bit better, share what we do in town and learn more about you and your family. You go and you meet. When you meet, you're interviewing them. You're doing less talking and more asking. So in that conversation, you're asking them to teach you about themselves, not in such clear aisias, but you're schlepping, you're giving cues for them to respond and talk about themselves. People love talking about themselves, and people love the people who get them to talk. Because while that person's talking, you're listening, and you're not interrupting. You're actually listening with a lot of intention. They're really going to like you. So we can, in addition to you being a charming shliach and an inspirational person, you're giving them really beautiful things to connect with, they're going to want to hear more from you. So then you reach out again, and you do the next set of 7 steps, which I'll get to in a second. I'm going to pause here for a second for a question.
Shmuley, yeah, I just this question I was going to ask myself that somebody just wrote in, and I think it really makes a good point. What do you do if Hashgacha Pratis has not brought you with your, with the person you want to engage in a relationship with? You haven't had the chance to meet at Trader Joe's. You've been there morning and night waiting for him to show up. You've bought all the babka you can, and the guy just Pasha doesn't show up at Trader Joe's. Whatever. You didn't meet him, and you want to create that relationship. What are ways that you could kind of forge the relationship?
So let's. It's a good question. Let me go through the next slide, then I'll come back to answer it.
Okay, great.
It's a fundamental in fundraising. We deal with it all the time. So what are the next 7 steps? If you finish the first round of 7, now remember, relationships they take time, and they have to be organic. I can't force them. A lot of times we burn relationships when we're too excited too soon, and we overwhelm people and we smother them. Like, whoa, what's with this guy? Why is he stalking me? So it's got to be slow. Now, when you're in a community, whether it's a huge community, whether it's not so large, and I get out there all the time, I'm going to be encountering people. And for those of us that might be in a very small shluchus, keep in mind that there's a whole mitzvah of Sheva mitzvahs, and when I incorporate that into my shluchus, seriously, and I check out with Rabbi Yossi Shulman and ask Noah for the resources there, then there's no such thing as I don't have who to talk to in town. And side note, this is a completely side topic, but it's so vital. There's lots of money amongst righteous Gentiles who want to know about Sheva mitzvahs, and in a community where you don't have that many Yidden, you got lots of righteous Gentiles, and you build that, you incorporate that into your shluchas, they will float your Moshe L'Shem L'Tiferes. It's fascinating. And it's very much part of what the Rebbe wants for making the world a better place. Enough, that was like a side note, it snuck in over here. So let's take a look at these next 7 steps. You had your first meeting. What do? You call 2-3 weeks later. That was wonderful. Really enjoyed the meeting. Would you like to meet again sometime? Not could we meet again, would you like to? Because I'm always in the business of finding out people's preferences. Chances are, based on the way last meeting ended, I'm going to know if they want to do it again. But I'm not going to superimpose it upon them. I'm going to ask that gentle question. Would you like to meet again? Rabbi, I think we're good. Well, I'm so glad I asked. Can I share with you a short word of inspiration before I hang up? Please, I love inspiration. Or, it's Rabbi, I'm so glad you called to ask. I'd be delighted to meet with you again. Last time was such an inspiration. You're the first Orthodox rabbi I ever met. And I was highly surprised, pleasantly surprised, how wonderful it was. Please, let's set a time to come. So if I'm not being proactive to make that phone call, we may never get to that level of the relationship. So let's say you make the phone call, and he says, yes, come by. You come again. You share a Dvar Torah. You meet, and then you keep the cycle of meeting going. While you're meeting, in addition to learning about him, you find ways to insert the dream and vision of Chabad into the conversation. So you give him a chance by saying, can I share with you some of my goals and aspirations for our work in the community? And this wise older man says to you, oh, please, I'd be very happy to hear. And you share, and oh, really? I didn't know you do that. Oh, really? You do that? Oh, that's so interesting. And by the way, how do you fund yourself? So I'm not going to say to him, could I tell you how we fund ourselves? It's premature. But when I talk about my dream, my passion, where we're going, what we're doing, it gives them room, especially if they are philanthropic in nature and they have capacity and they're the type that gives. So it gives them room to come and say, well, tell me about that piece of it. And I say, oh, thanks for asking. That's really nice of you to express interest. I'd be happy to share. But wherever it goes, in the meeting, you ask him for his feedback and his thoughts. Listen to them. Pay attention to them. Come home. Schedule your next meeting, CRM, and plan the next steps. So by now, after 1 or 2 meetings with this person, in-person meetings or over the phone meetings, I'm beginning to build a wealth of knowledge about this person. Each one of these steps, there's something called, every action has a reaction. Every piece of information I capture and I record it, And if I'm doing it in a CRM, there's always an option or a requirement to plug in the next step. So no matter what it is, if it's the one-time person who's a Merker Shlichus person, and the next step is I tag them, Merker Shlichus, and I don't think about it till then, I've done what I needed to. If it's somebody who fits into the category of the type of people that I need to be bringing into my Mosid, the influencers, the philanthropists, what else would be called? People with high standards. There's one more category, it's slipping my mind. If it's one of those people, then I'm going to keep them in my top list of people I'm going to review and make sure that I've got a plan for when to follow through with them in somewhat of a steady, way, but it's not random. It's not random in the slightest. I don't stop and think, oh, who should I talk to this week? No, each time I interact, the next step is in place. Here's if I'm looking at the clock, and I know we want to do Q&A. There's still some more to talk. We have about 14 minutes ahead of us. Tell me where you want to go.
It's so hard to say. Maybe you could touch quickly on the other points or any of the things that you might think might be really important, and then we could jump into a Q&A. And
I'm looking ahead of what was prepared here.
I just want to say that this is so valuable because when I first came out in Shlichus, I remember this was a big struggle for me and my peers. I spoke to many people about it, and we kind of all had the situation where you'd meet someone, meet up for coffee. It was kind of like an exciting thing, so the person would agree, and then you don't know what to do with them. But I like how you present the idea that the first meeting is an interview where you kind of get to know the person, and you at the same time now decide afterwards, where did this person fit in my Mosid? Which program can he be involved in? You know, is he a guy I'm going to go get involved with to be part of my committee, to be a funder, or so this is very valuable information. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome. Let's touch on number 3 on this slide. Then I'll come to the question that was posed in the chat box.
Okay.
So one of the apiteva b'nei adam, the way I understand it, one of the ways to draw people closer to you is by thanking them. Now, sometimes we thank people for some things they did for us. Sometimes we thank people just for being them. I like to use thank yous as surprises. So, for example, after the meeting, when you send this person a thank you letter, it could be a short note, and it could be handwritten, along the lines of, Yosef, thank you so much for having me on Chabad Suite today. It meant a lot for me to be spending time with the Shluchim. And thank you for the opportunity to create greater impact and help them have greater atzlacha. All the best and lots of continued success with the tremendous efforts you put out on a daily basis for the Rebbe Shluchim. But it didn't take too much time for me to do that. Now, I might think to myself, well, wait a second. Yosef called me and said, Shmuley, can you come do this? So he should be thanking me. To me, that's irrelevant. I'm looking for an opportunity to bring a relationship closer. So another example is a family comes to you for Shabbos for the first time. Thank them. Send them a thank you letter after Shabbos. Now, it's funny because they get this nice little thank you letter in the mail on Tuesday morning. They're thinking to themselves, that's backwards. They hosted me. It was delicious. We loved it. Why are they thanking me? We should be thanking them. That's the thought we want to trigger. We should be thanking them. So in a world where many people are programmed to think about themselves, so sometimes a thank you will trigger a thank you back. I'm working with a shliach setting up his Purim party. So he wants to make it more personal. One of the things he's doing is preparing. He has RSVPs for his Purim party. So he's preparing thank you notes for all the men. His wife is preparing thank you notes for all the women. And on the way out of the Purim party, he's going to be at the door and handing out personalized notes, an envelope with the person's name on it. Inside is a little card that just says, thank you for being the Mordechai and Jewish hero of your family, and it was wonderful spending Purim with you, Rabbi so-and-so. And his wife is going to be handing out cards that says something about Queen Esther and a little compliment, probably 30 cards to the men, 30 cards to the women. The rest of them come up with our children. But here's a really neat example of, but they get to the car and they open it up and they feel really good and they're thinking to themselves, no, I got to be thanking them. And what else could I be doing to help them out? Because this is so special. This is so incredible. So that's at Mikuta. Let's go back to the question here. Yes, was that helpful?
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's a great idea.
So to provide 7 steps for someone you want to meet. So this one is really, it's relationships in general, and we deal with it often with fundraising, because I may know of a philanthropist who has no open shaykhs to the Mossad. I don't know him, and I have no real way to get to him other than calling. Now, am I afraid to call? If I'm afraid to call, then chances are I'm not going to do it. If I'm not afraid to call, then I'm probably not on this. Then I'll just go ahead and make the call. But let's talk about, what do I want to know here? I want to know, will this person take interest in the Mossad? Not a personal thing. Will they take interest in the Mossad? So let's say I've learned how to drop my fear and insert the fun and freedom, and I make the phone call to Mr. Goldstein. And the call sounds like this. Hi, is Mr. Goldstein there? And the secretary says, who's calling? I say, it's Rabbi Shmuel from Chabad. And what's this regarding? I'm a young rabbi in the community, and I am looking to meet up with successful businessmen. I've heard good things about Mr. Goldstein. He has a wonderful name in town. I'd like to know if his calendar would allow for a brief meeting sometime in the next 2 weeks. So the secretary just heard me praise her boss. And so now she's feeling good about her boss, hopefully. And if she's not on high guard, she might say, oh, that sounds wonderful, and Mr. Goldstein really likes meeting new people. Sure, does this and this time work for you? Let's just say you get that far. You don't stop there. I say, and what is your name? She says, Samantha. Well, Samantha, can I ask you a question? And she says, sure. I say, can you tell me something good that happened to you in the past couple of days? And she starts chuckling. Oh, that's a great question. Let me think. Oh, you know what? I woke up this morning. That's a good thing. And I said, you're absolutely right. It beats the alternative. And I'm so glad you shared that. And she says, oh, you know, it's so good to be grateful and have gratitude. Thank you for asking me that question. And I thank her for her time, and we confirm the meeting. What happens here is she now is my friend. She's now going to bat for me talking to Mr. Goldstein. Because we were makarver, we asked her a question, we got her to share some gratitude. So in a good case scenario, I'm just gonna make a lot of phone calls. I'm gonna gonna constantly look out for who are the people in town who I wanna meet that I have no real, they have no, aside from the fact that they're Jewish and they fit right into Perek Lamed Beis Tanya, and the Rebbe considers them part of Klal Yisrael, and therefore we have an intrinsic soul connection. Aside from all that, we have no reason to meet. So I'll focus on the fact that they're part of the Yidden. And I'll make the phone call. Some people are going to say, happy to. Some people say, not interested. Some people say, thank you for calling. Some people will slam the phone. I don't know who's going to do what. The simple answer is, how do I get that started, is I try. I'm going fishing. I'm putting out a kind gesture to reach that person to see how they're going to respond. If Mr. Goldstein himself answers, I'll have the conversation with him. I brought the case of the secretary because oftentimes that's what happens. Either way, when I script out what it is I'm asking that person, and I practice. Somebody asked, now, does email work for this? So if you're using email to hide, then it'll work like you're hiding. If you're using email because you know that the only way this person will respond to you is by email, then be respectful of their communication preference. People like people. People like talking to people. And more often than not, when you say the Rebbe's Kapitel and you think to yourself, I'm doing this to be able to bring another Jew closer to Torah and mitzvahs, and you make the phone call with a lot of joy in your heart, people respond positively or clearly. And clearly is not a bad thing. A quick anecdote. About an hour and a half ago, I sent I'm working on a gift for somebody. And I'm trying to think, will he appreciate it? Won't he appreciate it? So I texted him and I said, can I send you something to look at for your preference? I like your perspective on something. He said, sure, no problem. He's a busy guy. That's why I asked him first. Then I said, here's the introduction. I'm working on a gift for somebody very special. It's something that I think they would like, but I need another set of eyes. Can you take a look? Now, this was the person I was preparing it for. We'll call him Yankel. I was preparing it for Yankel, but I didn't want to go any farther without knowing if Yankel was going to like it. So I sent it to him, He writes back, LOL, this doesn't speak to me. And I wrote back, thanks for allowing me to learn your preference. That's all it was. So when I call somebody in town and I say, would you like to talk? When they answer me, I'm learning their preference. If they say yes, it's great. If they say no, it doesn't mean we're done. It means for now, this avenue is going on hold, and we'll have to find other ways to reach this yid.
Shmuley, I'm going to cut you off real quick because I want, if you could address just the last question from Mr. Leib. He's asking regarding sending a thank you letter for people who came for Shabbos. Might it maybe seem weird that you're thanking them, that the guests are going to be like, well, why are they thanking me? That's kind of it's kind of strange.
I like the question.
Just if you could answer in 2 minutes, because I want to be able to give another 2 minutes just to sign off.
I'll keep it to 30 seconds. When you write something from your heart, and you will, when you write a genuine compliment, your presence enhanced our Shabbos. Your stories inspired us, and thank you so much for giving of your busy weekend to join us. That's all legit. It's all genuine. It makes them realize that you're recognizing something that others might take for granted. It throws them for a little bit of a loop, and it evokes in them tremendous feelings of gratitude.
Beautiful. Shmuley, before you leave, I just want to ask you one last thing. I've followed you for a while, and I've attended your fundraising course. And in case people that are attending this webinar aren't aware, can you please share anything you have going on? I know you have a fundraising course coming up, which I think is tremendous. I've attended it. So just let people know what's going on with what you're doing. You help so many shluchim, and people should know about what's going on.
Thank you, Yosef. That's very kind of you to bring that up. There is a fundraising course that is being launched tomorrow. We finished the first round of it a week and a half ago, and based on the feedback and the popular demand, we're running a second course that starts tomorrow. We have put some stuff out on WhatsApp, haven't done too much heavy marketing on it. If it's something you're interested in, if you're looking to drop your fear and replace it with freedom, with fundraising in a way that is really positive and changes the nature of how you look at your fundraising, your donors, and puts a lot of simcha into it, definitely reach out. You can go straight to rothmancoaching.com. There's a webinar. Yes, if you can type that into the chat box, rothmancoaching.com. There's a recorded webinar that introduces the course. There still are a few spots left if somebody wants to join. And that starts tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern. It's a 6-week course, and we'd love to have you join us. Thank you for bringing that up, Yosef. I appreciate it. Also, on that same website, there are some recorded Farbrengens, me interviewing all the shluchim, some group Farbrengens. So if you're in a place where there's extra time and a little bit of loneliness, you may find some of that beneficial.
Beautiful. Thank you again so much, Shmuley, for joining us and sharing all this wisdom. And I really, really appreciate it. And I wish you tzlacha with everything. Go ahead.
Thank you. Quick question to the group. Did you benefit from today's presentation? If you benefited and you like what you learned, just type in a word. See, we're asking you for the thank you. Check that out. Type in a word or two just to say either thank you or yes, I benefited, or maybe even specify what you took away from it.
I want to mention, Shmuley, that I did get a bunch of private messages of people expressing a lot of thanks and gratitude for the webinar. So it seems that people really enjoyed, and hopefully people are on there.
I'll close with this. I remember Hanukkah Live, Tafshin Nun, and if I'm not mistaken, the Nekudah, the Sikha there, was the Rebbe was talking about how one person in one place of the world lights a candle, and through the satellite, thousands are watching around the world. And it's fascinating how today you're in California, I'm in Chicago, I'm in Miami, and in an international setting are joining us, and with Emir Hashem L'Toivas, everybody, to bring more light into the world. So Yasher Koach.
Shkoach. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Shmuley. And I'll send out an email with more information on how to get in touch with Shmuley and his work. And hopefully, we'll try to get the slides and the recording out to everybody.
All right, thank you, Yosef.
All right, Shmuley. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye, everyone.